Here's some information for the third, fourth, whatever section, basically the while, if, else section of the RobotC testbed activities. You'll find that the while is not under the natural language. I've expanded a whole bunch of stuff here, but it's not under there. It is actually under the C construct. So to find the while, you go to the C construct, expand that one, not the natural language, and then you look at some of these. We're going to use some of these different ones here. But for this one, the while condition. So I'm going to drag while over here, and basically you'll notice it has its own set of curly braces. So whatever happens in here, whatever you want the while to do, will have it inside of these curly braces. Now, the most common one that we use is we say 1 equals, whoops, back up, equals. So that is equals 1. When that says while 1 equals 1, that means that will work. It means the program will continue to run forever. Whatever is in between these curly braces will continue to run over and over and over again. So if, for example, I just put my thing here, let me get rid of that body. That was just a holding spot. And I put in here left motor for 77. This one I don't need to wait. What's going to happen is it's going to go from here, it's going to start the motor, it's going to go back up and check my while. As long as this is still true, and 1 is always equal to 1, so it will just run forever. So this is the while 1 equals 1 is for when you want something to run continuously. You don't want it to stop until you basically tell it to stop. You turn off the program. You stop the program. It will continue to run forever. So this is the most common use, actually. Now, another one is if you want to do it as a timer. In that case, you need to add something else. So I need another space here. Let me get rid of that for right now because that's just getting in my way. So in here, I want to use a timer. Say I want to run something for 20 seconds. I need to first clear my timer, and that's down here under timing, is under commands. There is a clear timer, so I put that right here. And I've got to call it something. There's basically T1, T2, T3, and T4. So I'm going to do T1. So I'm clearing it, which means I set it to 0 because the timer starts running as soon as you start the program. So if there's anything else there, it won't clear it. So and that's outside of my while loop, so it'll only get cleared once. If you put the clear timer inside the while loop, it'll clear it every time, and it's not going to work well at all. So then I can get rid of this, and now what I want to do is while time, let's see. So then I'm going to drag this T1 into my while loop here. And what that says is while time 1, and the name of it is T1 because I just named it basically, while my T1 timer, and now I need to tell it what I want it to do. I'm going to say less than. And because it says time 1, those are in milliseconds. So 1,000 milliseconds equals 1 second. So if I want to run for 20 seconds, I would do 20, 1, 2, 3, 20,000. So this program, this motor will now run for 20 seconds and then stop. So this is a really important one to understand here. So it will, right here, this is if I want something to run for a certain amount of time. Clear my timer, set my time. So while time 1 is less than 20,000, whatever's within these two curly braces will go. Now at the end of 20, it'll jump out of that. If I had something else here, if I said turn on an LED and had a wait for 2 seconds, that means my motor would stop. My LED, if I did something like this, and I'm going to do this real quick. So what this would do is my motor would run for 20 seconds, and then it would jump out of my while loop, and then my LED would come on, basically saying, and actually I would have to have, I would also have to have a, what would I need to have, folks? I would need to have a stop motor. So that would run for 20 seconds, then stop my motor, turn an LED on, and be done. So there's that kind of a thing. So that's how to use the timer. Now, what if I want, I'm going to get rid of this because I'm going to explain the next thing. What if I want something to work only while a button is being pushed? You know, if I want my motor on while the button is pushed, then I'm going to get rid of these things here. Then instead of having a timer, I don't want a timer now. I'm going to have, that is going to be down in my sensors over here. That's going to be a sensor values. Now I'm going to put this up here, and that would be while sensor value, and that would be, so let's say my bump switch equals 1, while my bump sensor equals 1, then that should work. Now it's only going to go through at one time, so if I hold down the bump switch when my program starts, if I'm not so what I actually, to do this right, I'm probably giving you too much information here, but if I say 1 equals 1, that way my program will keep going. Delete my body. Now I'm also going to delete this curly brace, but then I'm going to put it down here, and that is curly brace right there, because what that now does is, in fact, let me show you if we do formatting, tab a file, hold file. Is that what does it? No. Wait. In order to tell where these curly braces, which ones go with which, if I click on Edit, Code Formatting, Format Whole File, what it does is, you'll notice, see how this steps it in? So that was Edit, Code Formatting, Format Whole File. The one with the little magic wand here, that is really useful, because now I can tell this curly brace goes with that curly brace. This while loop, so that means from here to here is going to go on forever, and then from here to here is going to be when the bump switch is pushed. What this will do is my program will run forever, and it'll just sit there. If I push the bump switch, then the motor starts up. As long as I'm holding the bump switch, as long as I hold it, actually that's better with a limit, because then when I let go of the limit, it will, that will work actually better, because now when I push the limit switch in, the motor runs. Once I let go of the limit switch, then I jump outside of my while loop and it'll stop. The bump switch, because I have to let go and press and release, you could try it. I'm not sure which way that would work. You might just have to press the button a second time. Press and let go, press and let go. But that's an interesting little program. In fact, you could build this and see how that works. Kind of a way to learn how this while loop goes. So that's the third one, using this sensor value. And that was under the sensors, variables, sensor value. And then this is whatever one I'm talking about. It could be the encoder, it could be the potentiometer, it could be, this is a way that if I'm using the encoder, I can control how many times the wheel turns by doing this, while doing a count. So there's all kinds of things you can do with that. So that's the while loop. And let me see. All right, the last thing that I want to do is the if-else. Let me shrink a couple of these things here. If-else. And that is in the if statements here under C constructs. If and it has all of these different things here. There's different kinds of if-else. But basically, let me just drag one of these over here. And so again, what you want, if, and in here, in most cases, it is going to be sensor value. You know, if sensor value, and this is where you got to get tricky here, because you got to have your parentheses right. If sensor value, whoops, not that one. I want a box one just so I can keep it straight. If, for example, my limit, and then close it. So this is saying I'm working with my limit switch. If the limit switch is equal to 1, let me see, make sure that's right. Yeah, mine was listening because I wanted to do a, where am I here? I'm going to start over with that, because what I actually want is I want an if-else. So I'm going to take this if-else and bring this in here. So if I bring my if-else in here, then I say if my sensor value, and then you can do parentheses or whatever, limit, and this is where you've got to start learning what's going on here. If sensor value, then you have your statement here, and if the sensor value is, then this is where you put in your, let's say you want to just start a motor. So at 65. Okay. Something like this. Else, else have your LED on, something like that. And so you do all these kinds of things in here. Special, turn LED on. I'm not sure if I've got all this right or not. And so what you do when you get all done is you compile. I think I'm sure I'm missing something here. Yeah. Okay. Undefined procedure. Oh, I got to start. I got some kind of extra thing there. Okay, there's start motor. Compile program. What do you know? It all worked. And again, if I go edit, code formatting, format whole file, I can way easier see what's going on here, because now I can see if and so this one you got to have a semicolon at the end, and you got to have this. So this is doing this. If I delete some of these, you can see how it fits better. You can see my stepped in part here, and there's times where you're going to have curly braces in here. There's all kinds of different things, but this will at least get you started on what's going on here. In some of these, it will tell you that you should have curly braces inside of this. So if I put like a open curly brace here and a closed curly brace here, let's format that so that we can tell where everything is. And if I compile it, yeah, so it likes that too. So this is where everything within the curly braces is what's happening under my if. So this is how you do the if else, and you'll use this a lot. The while and the if else are used for most of what we're doing from now on, because this is where if this happens, then something else happens, or while something's going on, this is how you connect your inputs and outputs. Before, you turned your motors on and off kind of manually with timers and things, or you inputs to this, but this is how you really connect them to make them do something under certain circumstances. So that pretty much runs that, and so that's for that next one about while loops and if else statements.